TransDigm Group makes bolts, brackets, and actuators for airplanes. Boring, right? The stock has compounded at 20% a year for 17 years. 54% EBITDA margin. Higher than Microsoft. Higher than Google. $8.8 billion in revenue. $68 billion market cap. 28 acquisitions. $248 per share in special dividends since 2019. Wall Street still classifies it as industrial. The aerospace parts business is the most expensive lesson in mispricing on the market. Here's the part that doesn't add up. Boeing barely makes money selling you the airplane. The companies selling the bolts run software margins. Here's how this works. Boeing sells you a 737 for around $100 million. Boeing's commercial airplane segment runs at a 3 to 5% operating margin. On a good year. Many years it loses money. Now look one level down. The aftermarket, spare parts, service work, replacement components that keep the aircraft flying for 30 years. Aftermarket gross margins are about 1.4 times new equipment gross margins. Aftermarket operating margins, 2.5 times OEM operating margins. And aftermarket is roughly 80% of an aircraft's total lifecycle economic value. The OEM sells the airplane near cost. The parts companies make the actual money for the next 30 years. This is the entire business model. Why is aftermarket so durably profitable? Every part on a commercial aircraft has to be FAA certified. Once a part is qualified onto a 737 or A320, it stays qualified for the 30 to 40 year fleet life. Substituting a different supplier costs years of recertification, hundreds of pages of testing data, and tens of millions of dollars per part. Almost nobody does it. And the fleet keeps flying. Average commercial aircraft today flies 30 years. Engines get overhauled 4 to 6 times. Hydraulic systems get rebuilt. Brackets crack and get replaced. Actuators wear out. Every replacement is a high-margin transaction for the part maker. Regulation locks the supplier in. Fleet life keeps the orders flowing. It's an annuity attached to a metal-bending business. TransDigm Group, ticker TDG. The company that built the model. $8.8 billion in fiscal 2025 revenue. 53.9% EBITDA margin, the kind of margin you usually only see in software as a service. $68 billion market cap. 25% compound annual return over the last 10 years. The strategy is straightforward. Find aerospace parts businesses with sole-source proprietary content on a specific aircraft model. Buy them, often using debt. Optimize pricing. Take cash flow out as special dividends. September 2025, TransDigm declared a $90 per share special dividend, the fourth in 4 years. Cumulative special dividends since 2019, $248.50 per share. 28 acquisitions over the company's lifetime, most recently Servotronics in July 2025 for $110 million, and Victor Sierra in January 2026. Private equity in public clothing. Worked, repeatedly, for 2 decades. The second name you have to know is HEICO Corporation, ticker HEI. HEICO does something different. They make parts manufacturer approval parts, PMA, FAA certified alternatives to the original equipment manufacturer's parts, sold at a 20 to 40% discount to airlines who want to lower maintenance costs. HEICO holds 19,000 PMA approvals. They generate 500 to 650 new approvals per year. The rest of the entire independent PMA industry combined produces a fraction of that. They control about half the market. HEICO did $4.5 billion in fiscal 2025 revenue at a 23% operating margin. The company is family-controlled, the Mendelsohn family, compounding at remarkable rates for 30 years. August 2023, they bought Wenser for $1.9 billion and consolidated the PMA market further. Then there's Howmet Aerospace, ticker HWM. Howmet doesn't make brackets. Howmet makes the things inside jet engines that have to survive at 1500 degrees Celsius, turbine blades, airfoils, structural castings. $8.3 billion in fiscal 2025 revenue. Adjusted EBITDA margin of 30%. The engine products segment runs at 33%. Howmet stock is up almost 70% in the last 12 months. Forward PE of 48. Wall Street has finally noticed. The reason: every CFM LEAP engine on a 737 MAX, every Pratt and Whitney GTF on an A320neo, has Howmet airfoils inside it. Commercial aerospace revenue grew 12% in 2025. Defense grew 21%. Industrial gas turbine grew 25%. Same razor and blade. The blade is just nickel superalloy. One more layer up, the engine OEMs themselves. GE Aerospace, post-2024 spin-off. $46 billion in revenue, 18% operating margin, $7.3 billion in free cash flow. CFM, the joint venture with Safran, makes the LEAP engine, most produced commercial jet engine in the world. Rolls-Royce, the British engine maker. Stock left for dead at 70 pence in 2020. Today around 1300 pence, a six-bagger under CEO Tufan Ergin Bilgic. Profit grew 40% in 2025. And MTU Aero engines in Germany, 8.7 billion euros, the under-the-radar GTF Aero winner. 41% of MTU's maintenance revenue is tied to the troubled Pratt GTF fleet. Pratt's pain is MTU's gain. 12 names you need to know. Aftermarket pure plays: TransDigm, 54% EBITDA. HEICO, 23% operating margin. Loar Holdings, the April 2024 IPO, already up 2 times, running the same TransDigm playbook on smaller targets. Engine forging and content: Howmet. Woodward, fuel control systems with 22% Aero margin and 29% commercial services growth. Engine OEMs: GE Aerospace, Rolls-Royce, Safran, MTU, the 4 engines on every modern airliner. Specialist actuation and naval defense: Moog, $3.9 billion in flight control revenue. Curtiss-Wright, $3.5 billion and a $4.1 billion backlog tied to Columbia-class submarines and advanced reactors. Distribution: AAR Corporation. And on the OEM side, GE Aerospace plus the engine partners, but the OEMs are not where the long-term cash flow lives. Now the Boeing crisis. December 8, 2025, Boeing closed its acquisition of Spirit AeroSystems for $8.3 billion including debt. The supplier that built the door plug that fell off the Alaska Airlines flight. Boeing fixed the quality issue by buying it back. What did this do for the aftermarket? It tightened it. The 737 MAX backlog now stands at around 4,800 unfilled orders. Total Boeing backlog, 6,100 aircraft. Production rate is currently 42 per month, ramping toward 47 by end of 2026. Airbus A320neo backlog, 7,190 aircraft, over 10 years of forward production. Constrained today by Pratt GTF engine shortages. Every one of those aircraft buys spare parts for the next 30 years. The aftermarket pipeline is the longest it has ever been. Then the Pratt and Whitney GTF crisis. Powder metal contamination forced an unprecedented engine recall, total cost to RTX about $7 billion. The recall forces every one of those GTF engines back into the shop earlier than scheduled. Around 700 incremental shop visits through end of 2026 alone. Full recovery extends to 2030. For Pratt's parent RTX, this is a multi-year headwind. For MTU Aero engines in Germany, 41% of whose MRO revenue is GTF, this is a goldmine. For Howmet, who supplies the airfoils that get replaced during shop visits, this is incremental revenue. When the engine maker takes a $7 billion charge, the parts and MRO companies get the offsetting cash flow. That's how this industry works. Where does this go in the next 12 to 24 months? 3 signals. TransDigm's next acquisition. The company has run 28 deals in 25 years and is sitting on cash. Watch for a billion-plus deal in 2026. Execution holds the special dividend cadence. Multiple stalled deals slow the dividend story. Boeing 737 MAX production rate. Currently 42 per month, target 47 by end 2026, potentially 53. Hit 47 and the OEM pull-through is real, aftermarket pipeline accelerates. Quality issues forcing another rate cut, every aerospace parts company derates. Pratt and Whitney GTF aircraft on-ground number. Currently improving 15% quarter-over-quarter. AOG returns to pre-recall levels by end of 2026, MTU's outsized growth slows. It doesn't, MTU's decade keeps running. Catalysts up, first $1 trillion U.S. defense budget, GE Aerospace LEAP fleet hitting first major shop visits, Rolls-Royce Trent XWB content cycle. Catalysts down, Boeing production halt, recession hitting passenger traffic, an OEM clawback on aftermarket pricing. Upstream, titanium, nickel superalloys, carbon composites. Downstream, every airline, every defense buyer. They sit downstream of these 12 companies. The OEM sells the airplane. The parts company sells the next 30 years. I'm Big Z, follow me, see you in the next deep dive.